The lady in red was working as a prostitute out of the Mispa Hotel. One of the local businessmen who frequented the hotel was her sugar daddy. However, she still entertained male guests out of her room. One day, he caught her in the act and in a fit of rage, allegedly murdered her. It is said that she still haunts this hotel and was the focus of our investigation. We are outside of room 502, which is where the lady in red, no one knows her real name. Some say Elizabeth, some say it starts with the letter S, but she was found deceased right outside this room. So a lot of people have experienced paranormal situations in this room. Once we settled in the room, Rick placed some objects on the bed and decided to try to communicate with the lady in red.
I left these things for you to play with. They're yours. Do whatever you like. You can pass me one. You can even throw one at me.
The lady in red didn't move any of the objects, unfortunately. But we did experience some technical anomalies worth noting. Take a look at this next clip. That gray bar you see appears when no one is in the room, and then a few milliseconds later, Rick opens the door to enter the room. What's plan B? While deciding how to proceed with our investigation, we hear feedback coming from our equipment somewhere in the room. Let's hear this again with an enhanced audio. What's plan B? At the very moment I walk out of this frame, two lights appear to come from the window and move across part of the bed. Despite the fact that we are on the 5th floor, and it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, we believe that this was probably headlights from a car. So we heard your name is Harriet. Is that your name? Is your name Harriet? We captured this Class A EVP when asking the lady in red's name during our spirit box session. It was the only thing that we captured during our sessions. We enhanced the sound on this clip. Let's hear it again. So we heard your name is Harriet. Is that your name? Is your name Harriet? In this clip, we see an orb coming from the left-hand side of the screen near the ceiling and shooting down. If you didn't catch the orb the first time, watch the arrow. This clip creeped me out because I had a dream. I woke up in the middle of the night and looked at the camera and thinking it was really strange that I saw 2 red lights blinking very quickly. Well, as you can see, it really happened. Now, we capture a diagonal orb, or an orb going diagonally across my head, and there's some issues with the focus here. So all in all, I find this to be a very interesting clip. Not a few minutes later, we capture an orb come towards my head and then disappear. While doing EMF readings, I noticed on every floor, on that area where you see the arrow pointing, we had some very interesting spikes that we recorded. We went from the 5th floor right down to the 2nd floor, and the 2nd floor had the highest spike. So I figured there must be some sort of generator in the basement. So we talked with the manager in the morning, and she gave us a tour of the basement, and this is what we came up with. So right now we're in the basement of the Mispa Hotel. Last night I was doing EMF readings, and on the 2nd floor it just jumped very, very high. And so we found the source of that, which is the Keno machine. So the Keno machine apparently has been known to light up when it's not plugged in. And so we believe as we walked through the whole area of the basement, we figured out that it is right here coming from this area. We captured a disembodied voice in the background as I was talking about the Keno machine. Did you catch it? I'm going to play it again. We figured out that it is right here coming from this area. Take a look at the wood paneling. Do you see the letter S? I was told by the woman who cleans up the 5th floor to take the picture Because the staff there believe that the lady in red's first name starts with the letter S, and that the lady in red has left her impression in the wood.
Is that your name?
The lady in red. No one knows her real name. Some say Elizabeth, some say it starts with the letter S. Is the lady in red Stephanie, and did she try to communicate with us during the investigation and mess with our equipment? It's really hard to say, but whether you're a paranormal investigator or not, this hotel is truly worth a visit. They've done a wonderful job restoring the hotel, and it's a step back in time.
Built in 1911, the Glen Tavern Inn celebrated its centennial in 2011. Designed by the prestigious architectural firm Burns & Hunt, the structure has witnessed the many changes of the 20th century and played a part in that history. In Hollywood's early years, Santa Paula was a favorite filming locale. However, it was the use of the third floor as a gambling parlor, house of ill repute, and secret speakeasy during the Prohibition that spawned much of the murderous and bloody history that will haunt the Glen Tavern Inn forever.
So we're here with JJ, and you've lived in the building for 4 years, these were
4 years, yeah.
And you've had some pretty unique experiences within the building.
Yeah, like I looked it up, it's called sleep paralysis, where basically you fall asleep and you wake up panicked, paralyzed, and like terrified. And the first time was in 2018. It was my first night ever at the inn, and it happened, and I was with my bandmates, and I'm sitting there, I wake up paralyzed, trying to scream at the top of my lungs. I can't. There's like a shadow over me. And there's been many guests that have reported this. Our assistant manager, it's happened to. Science tries to debunk it as like, you know, when you fall asleep, you release melatonin so that you won't act out your dreams, but it's like, it's a lot more than that. It's happened one other time where I just tried to ignore it, and then I fell asleep, and then the third time it happened, I was lying next to my girlfriend, and it happened to me, and then I heard this little girl say, "I'm in the hallway." And like I didn't see her, but I could like feel her there, and I couldn't move, and I'm trying to scream for my girlfriend, and so I started to breathe really heavy.
Right.
And at that point, she like touched my arm, and I shot up and was like, you know, freaking out. Right. So,
what would you say is the most common report within the Glen Tavern Inn?
The most common report is seeing kids or sleep paralysis, and it's usually people's like first time to the inn. I don't know if they're being like checked out or what, but that's a common occurrence. The whole third floor has this dense, heavy vibe. That's like the only way to put it. Like when you get to the third floor, it just feels like there's like pressure on your whole body. And 307 though, this whole side of the inn was a brothel back during Prohibition. There's prostitution and you know, illegal drinking and all that stuff. And the legends are about a prostitute that was beheaded and a cowboy that was shot in the head. And we found a hat in the walls with a bullet hole in it, and we had it in our display case, and it was stolen 3 years ago.
We're about to go inside the Glen Tavern Inn and go to these locations where he's experienced paranormal activity within the building, so we're going to go ahead and follow him and see what exactly happened and where it happened.
This wing was actually used as a tuberculosis hospital. I don't know the exact dates, but that's why a lot of the psychics talk about there's a lot of children's spirits here, because they put a lot of the elderly and children up, and a lot of people died. A lot of psychics report in this room that there's an elderly gentleman still here, and he's really protective of the room, and he's like tall, with long face, and that he feels kind of like a keeper of this place, and so this is kind of his room. Yeah.
So this is 218.
So right before you guys came, I mean, you can still smell the fresh paint. It was like this really weird like seafoam green, which is added to like the weirdness of it. But I mean, this is where it happened. It was our first night here. All my bandmates were staying here, and we're all passed out, and I'm laying, and I wake up. I don't even know what time it was at that point, but at first I was confused, like, you know, what's happening, and then I tried to tag my bandmate and couldn't move, and then felt this feels like somebody laying on top of you, can't move. I'm trying to scream, like the scariest like fear, you know, I can't even describe it. And then the next morning, like I don't even remember. I remember it lasted so long that I just eventually fell asleep because I didn't know what else to do. And the next morning I woke up like, what the hell happened, you know? And then when we moved in here, more reports started to turn up, and that's when I experienced it. Like, it was probably like 6 months later, and then a few months after that. So it's pretty bizarre, but that's like a regular occurrence here.
And you've never had anything like that?
Never in my life. And I know some people have, you know, throughout their lives or whatever, but it's only happened here. Yeah. And it's just been really bizarre.
And that's a common report in this room?
Yeah, this room especially, but just the whole hotel. This couch has it's one of the original couches.
Oh, really? So this is the original piece?
Yeah, original piece. And there's a psychic back east who came to visit that was telling us before she even came, she pictured this sofa on this floor and that there's a spirit that hangs out here that's really protective. And I don't know if it's the same one from 218 or what, but.
So this was the area where during the Prohibition there was illegal gambling and a speakeasy.
Yeah, and so a lot of the original furniture back when it was kind of the slummy apartments, a lot of it was stolen. Most of it was stolen, the original lighting and the furniture, which is too bad.
That's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, but there are still some, you know, pieces we have around.
This is
the
infamous room.
This is the infamous room. And when you walk in, you go down just this like long, narrow hallway, and it's almost you're so segregated from the rest of the hotel in like your little room. It's really trippy. A lot of people have experienced things. I myself haven't, but it just has this like really weird vibe. It's the only way you can really put it.
If you can put that into one word, what would you say? What would you say about 307 in one word?
Just depressing.
Depressing.
It really is. It just has this like heavy energy where you just kind of just like somber in that room, man. It really is. And it's funny because there's a lot of light in this room from the skylight in the bathroom, so it's a comfortable room, but it just has this vibe.
So I had balloons all over the living room and the bar area, and we were just hanging out here, and one of the balloons in particular kept, like a little kid pulling it, that's what I felt like, and letting go, and it kept doing that throughout the day. Just that one particular balloon, and it was traveling, and all the other balloons were around and they were not moving.
And I had asked her because I figured maybe AC's on, or especially balloons around or whatever, or just that certain balloon, but I even turned off the AC just to make sure.
And it was still moving?
Yeah, at times.
It's like it was getting pulled and let go, and it was bouncing up and down on the ceiling. It was moving, and all the other balloons were not moving at all.
And one time there was a guest who actually had left her favorite pillow here. Okay. And so I had to come up and find it for her. And I'd never been in that closet before, and so I didn't know which key it was. Right. And so I was sitting there going through all the keys. There's about 20 keys on the ring. And I just started feeling like this weird energy in my peripheral. It was probably the weirdest thing I ever felt. And it kept going and going, and I just started sweating and sweating and sweating. And then I heard this loud bang come from here, from 218. And it was, and I'm telling you, it was loud. It sounded like the TV had fallen out of the armoire. It was pretty freaky. Right. So I just said, you know what? There's no pillow in that closet. So I went back down. I said, no, I'm sorry, I didn't find your pillow. Right. And it really freaked me out. Yeah. And so I'd come up here later just to make sure everything was okay, and nothing had moved in the room, nothing was broken, damaged, anything. Everything was fine. So it was several months after that, I was showing a group of college kids from the Thomas Aquinas College here in town around. And we came here, and I was standing right outside of 218, and I told them the exact same story. I started feeling this weird energy, I started to sweat, and then I heard this loud bang. But before I could say the word bang, the light bulb and the light fixture actually blew up and dropped to the ground.
So it blew up, and when you say blew up, it actually like exploded?
It didn't, like the glass, like the bulb itself didn't explode. It was like a light, an energy, like the light energy, just kind of an expansion of the light, and it just dropped to the ground. The bulb still stayed there, and it just dropped to the ground.
And so the bulb was intact?
It was, yeah.
Man.
As the light faded, it was time to let the structure tell its story.
All right, so we're here in the room of 210, I guess, where some reports of activity have taken place. So we're going to take this stationary camera here. We're going to set this up in the room while myself and Bruno head to 307. Michael and Matt are going to be in 218. So here we go.
The infamous room 307.
It's a lot heavier.
Yeah.
That would be freaked out. I could see a reflection of myself right on the IR, and I'm always one of those people who like expect to pan over a thing and see somebody else in the mirror with me.
Right.
'Cause that would be.
I do the same thing when I look in. I know I do the same thing when I look in mirrors.
Okay, this is starting the session on the Elysis. We have the Elysis running, Sony running, camera, motion sensor. Matthew Goldman has a recorder running. And we are in room 218 of the Glen Tavern Inn.
Alright, we're going to do some short burst EVP sessions in this room. Again, this is a room where a murder took place. A man and a woman were shot to death in the Prohibition era. So we're going to do some short burst EVP sessions, and basically what we're going to do is try and communicate with anything that may be here, might be here. And we're going to use these digital recorders to try and capture the voices of spirits, if you will, ghosts, disembodied voices. So here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone in here with us right now? My friend Matthew says he feels some sort of presence in here, right?
Yeah, I felt like I walked in on you earlier. Sorry about that. I don't know if you're using the sink or getting dressed. Or in the bathroom. And I think we may have startled you, so I came back to apologize.
I want to come step in this closet.
Would you be okay if we open this closet door?
Okay, we're going to open the closet door. If you're in there, please speak with us. It's like really cold in there.
It is, man. I got the chills when I open that thing.
Yeah.
Here, hold this. Grab the camera.
Bro grabbing Brandon's mic. I want to come step in this closet where you're supposedly found. I want to come step in this closet where you're supposedly found. I get that sick feeling in my stomach.
Dude.
My arms are tingling.
After collecting this unexplained voice, Bruno's body immediately became aware of the change in the environment. Was this the voice of the man that was shot to death in this room? While investigating in 218 and 307, the stationary camera in 210 was collecting data we have never experienced before. Note, the two separate devices malfunctioning at the same time while unexplained movement was recorded. Michael decided to investigate room 307 by himself. This was the room where a double murder took place in the Prohibition era.
I get a very uncomfortable feeling being in this room. I just really do. I just get the feeling like they're just like looking at me, wanting me to leave. I mean, you know, My presence here is very, very unwanted. That's what I get. Every time I turn my back, I feel like someone's looking at me and glaring at me to leave. I'm gonna go in here. I apologize if you really don't want me to come in here, but I have a job to do. Okay? And part of my job is coming in and trying to talk to you.
During Michael's time alone in 307, we set up a stationary camera in 218 to collect further data.
To whoever's in here, can you give me a sign that you're in here with me? I keep getting the mental image of, like, that I'm gonna be in here and that door's gonna open. There's gonna be somebody standing there, because I can't express enough how unhappy I would be if that door opened and anybody aside from Brandon, Bruno, or Matthew were standing there.
After Michael's session, he went to room 218 to retrieve the stationary camera. The data we were about to collect takes this investigation to the next level.
Oh my god, oh my god.
We were engulfed within the history of this century-old inn when something startling occurred in room 307.
Sitting here in this closet, where reportedly 2 bodies were found. I feel a little bit uneasy. Is that you doing that to me? Can you do or say something so we can detect your presence, please? Was that you that made that noise out there? Can you make that noise again?
What the Dude.
I saw that flash.
That was the motion sensor.
Just flashed, huh?
Yeah. I've never seen one do that.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god. What are you feeling?
I feel there's just this energy all around my body and something took a step towards me. You heard that, right?
Yeah.
Is that you? Can you say something into this device? Oh my god, the motion sensor just went off, dude.
I saw it, okay.
She pictured this sofa on this floor and that there's a spirit that hangs out here that's really protective.
Setting a motion-detected trap camera on the 3rd floor, we collected a white mist that moves through the frame. Was this the spirit that protects this area of the inn?
We were told earlier about a report of the sensation of a coldness that followed 2 people over in this area towards the bed. And they also had balloons set up because they were having anniversary. And apparently one of the balloons was grabbed by something and taken around the room. Consistently. So we have some balloons over here set up, and we're trying to see if anyone in here would like to try and grab one of these balloons. I'm gonna record, dude. I'm gonna quit playing.
I'm recording one right now.
Alright, you are?
I'm going to.
Okay, you start recording. If there's a little girl in here, or a little boy, would you like us to bring you a doll to play with? If you'd like us to bring you a doll, can you please set that blue light off again? I'm gonna grab the doll right now.
We're gonna get you a doll.
I'm gonna grab it right now, dude.
We're gonna get you a doll. Why don't you turn that blue light on?
Thank you for doing that for us.
Okay, little girl. We brought you a doll. We got you a doll here. Would you like to come up and grab that doll? I'm sorry, you may be an adult man. I don't mean to sit here and talk to you like a child if you're a man. And if you're a child, I don't mean to speak to you like an adult. So can we kind of base some kind of a system here to where we can kind of speak and know who you are? If you're a child, can you please set that light off again, please? If you're a man, can you set it off? If you're a woman, can you set it off? If you're a woman, can you set it off?
The investigation proved that the dark past of this century-old inn is very alive still today. Our visit was eventful, and the reports of ghostly happenings were confirmed. But though we may check out, some guests of the Glen Tavern Inn remain indefinitely.
In Jerome, the past can be seen walking everywhere.
The town abounds in legends and stories of the spirits and the paranormal activities.
You live in Jerome, you sort of get used to odd things happening. Shadows, or you hear things, or you sense something.
You know, it's a town where people live fast and they live hard lives, and a lot of psychic fingerprints are still left behind in a lot of buildings.
That's an interesting way to describe a cold chill knifing through you, or an apparition appearing at the foot of your bed. Nonetheless, to really understand the ghost of Jerome, you need to go back to a time when these bloodless beings were among the living.
Jerome was a mining community in Prescott's early territorial history.
In 1899, the word was out, kind of like the California gold rush, that we might have a similar bonanza up here with copper. By 1923-24, we had 15,000 people living here.
Oh yeah, this little boomtown pulled in $1 billion a year for the mining companies. And men with picks and shovels came from everywhere to get their cut. And guess what? You put a lot of hard-working men in one place, mix in some money, and well, there's gonna be a lot of colorful side effects.
We were called the Sin City of the West. This was the baddest place anywhere.
Gambling, murder, theft. It didn't get any more wicked.
It was just the roaring 1900s. They had a great time. They made their money and they went to the bars and spent it.
Let's be honest, it wasn't just beer and whiskey that these guys spent all their hard-earned money on.
A few of the more famous women of the town made a really good living operating brothels.
The brothel industry was very significant to Jerome because without the brothels, you would have had a lot more crime going on. This was an outlet.
It seems that our little town of Jerome was way ahead of its time at the turn of the century. More than 100 prostitutes walked the streets in less than 1 square mile. Seems to me, in Jerome, Arizona, the oldest profession was an obsession.
Business was booming. The miners worked so hard that they needed diversions. And the diversions, of course, were going to be sex, drinking, gambling, all the bad stuff.
Now, before you start scouring the internet for a one-way ticket to Jerome, remember, this was a long time ago. And like my uncle used to say, good times are like bloodlettings. Unfortunately, they don't last forever.
1953, the mining companies shut down. People literally packed up the next day and moved out of town.
Jerome became a ghost town as fast as it became a thriving mining community.
People just left their buildings and their homes, just walked out.
But these buildings that were abandoned long ago, trust me, they remain occupied to this day.
So many things took place here as such a wicked city. People that have moved into these historic buildings, there are so many of them that have their own stories of the paranormal activities, and we have them still today.
The shadows, the voices, the specters that stampede through this town. They are the remnants of its decadent past. But one spirit in particular is not searching for thrills. She is searching for justice.
We were at her home where Sammy was killed, and it just got icy cold.
Jerome, a mining town carved into the high desert of northern Arizona, has a colorful past.
We were called the Sin City of the West. There were fights, there were brawls, there were lots of bars. There was prostitution.
There were thousands of people that lived here, and now they're all gone. They didn't all leave happily.
Poor Sammy Dean did not leave here happily. It was the Great Depression. She and her husband came to Jerome in search of a better life. And then she was alone and penniless, trapped in a town with no opportunities for women. She was forced to walk these streets to support herself. And her ghost is still trapped here. Today, you can take a stroll down Main Street. You know, it's quite lovely here in Jerome. But if you do, watch out. Because Sammy is hardly the only spirit who wanders these streets.
Jerome is definitely haunted. There are 450 of us, give or take, that live here, and probably a lot more that you just can't see.
The Connor Hotel is very, very haunted. Workers have seen a man, and he's usually in a suit, and he usually has a bowler hat on his head. Whether it's a ghost of David Connor, we don't know, but people see the ghost.
I know for a fact that houses that used to be boarding houses have unexplained phenomena.
There's a cemetery right outside of Jerome. It's very old and it's very haunted.
You may wonder why this former mining mecca is such a magnet for wandering demons. Well, let me see. Partying, carousing, money, women, and booze. I might want to stay here forever myself.
To this day, it's still a fun town. I think it was fun back then, and I think they really missed the whole action of it. I really do.
But you should know, there are other undead spirits in Jerome. And to them, the memories are anything but happy.
Prostitutes were women forced into extreme circumstances because of the conditions of their lives.
Many of them came with their fiance or their boyfriend. Once they got here, they would often abandon the woman. There were some pretty wicked and awful things that happened to some of these prostitutes as a part of their trade.
Juanita Marie Dean was affectionately known to her friends and neighbors as Sammy. Of all the stories that haunt this town, it is hers that screams the loudest.
Sammy Dean was a young woman that was very beautiful. She was married to a man named George.
For whatever reason we don't know, he just up and left.
She made friends with another woman. The other woman said there are things to be done in Jerome, and very sadly found out what those things were.
But what makes Sammy so special is that unlike most of the women who shared her profession at the time, Sammy had her eye on a better life.
She was one of the few ladies in town that actually had a car, and she had a lot of friends, and always was out, went to the movies and shopping.
She was saving money. She wanted to get out. And something in the universe just wasn't going to let that happen.
Fate, my friends, is a funny thing. You see, when the scorching desert sun came up on July 7th, 1931, Sammy had every reason to believe that this was going to be just another beautiful summer's day. But on that day, a crime of passion would begin Sammy's ghost story.
She was found brutally strangled to death.
It was tremendously violent.
Jerome, Arizona, a town where the road to a better life began for many miners. But for Sammy Dean, her road came to a dead end. The life was strangled from her in this house in July of 1931. Was she killed to hide a scandalous love affair? Well, my friends, you may get that answer very soon. For you see, Sammy's ghost still wanders this town, and many will tell you that she is being followed in death by her murderer. Innocent Sammy Dean, abandoned by her husband, forced into prostitution. She did what she had to do to survive, but yet she dreamed of a better life. But fate reached out with darker plans.
Sammy was working for a local house. She was making regular clients. And out of those regular clients, we have the mayor's son, several councilmen. So she was traveling in a very dangerous circle. It's July the 7th. It's unusually hot. Later in the day, Sammy lets a gentleman in.
When Sammy's friends and neighbors didn't see her the rest of the day, they got suspicious and called the cops.
That afternoon, about 5 o'clock, the police find Sammy. She'd been strangled. The whole case never was thoroughly investigated. It was a prostitute. Nobody cared.
It was a quick inquest. They, determined that she was murdered by someone unseen, and that was it.
Officially, the murder does remain unsolved. It's a tragic, tragic case.
Sammy Dean has never been avenged, so to speak. So therefore, she comes back to visit to try to get us to keep that story going.
A case gone cold in the blistering hot town of Jerome, Arizona? That doesn't sound right to me. And trust me, my friends, it never sat well with Sammy Dean either. Because until someone tries to solve her murder, she is going to walk these streets forever.
I believe Sammy is still here. I was performing in the play about Sammy Dean. It was the final performance. We were finished for the night. All of a sudden, the temperature felt like it dropped 20 degrees. I just suddenly felt extremely unwelcome, and I just felt very, 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 very uncomfortable, like it was time to go. When I talk about it, I still get the eerie feeling on the back of my neck, and the hairs want to stand up.
I was assisting the Chamber of Commerce with their home tour, and the building that Sammy Dean was murdered in was on the tour. There were a number of people who just got chills and literally felt a presence. One woman jumped around and grabbed my arm, and she said, "I can't go in there. There's a woman telling me I can't go in there." But it's Sammy Dean reminding me of the story.
The victim of an unsolved murder desperately trying to tell her side of the story. Well, my story is just getting started. You see, there is another ghost who follows Sammy back to the scene of her murder. And this ghost may have a guilty conscience.
When you go into that room and you're the only soul in that room, you're not the only soul in that room.
During its heyday, the mining town of Jerome, Arizona was famous for both the copper in its hills and the prostitution in its streets. On a hot July afternoon in 1931, Sammy Dean, a reluctant streetwalker, was brutally murdered. Who killed Sammy? A client? A jealous lover? A town official? Her unsolved murder still haunts this town. And so does her ghost.
She's here because she had a brutal death and it wasn't her time to go.
I believe she's unhappy that no one has ever pointed a finger at whoever did murder her. I think that's very probable that she could still be here.
Why does the spirit of a murdered prostitute still wander Jerome? Maybe she's trying to tell us who killed her.
I had the opportunity for several years to live where Sammy Dean was killed. The bedroom that my son was sleeping in was the room that they actually found Sammy Dean in.
None of our children nor our parents would even stay in that room.
You can tell the presence. When you go into that room and you're the only soul in that room, you're not the only soul in that room. In July, around the anniversary of her death, things would get a little bit more active in that room. The windows would fog up for no apparent reason. They'd fog up in the summertime when it was 90 degrees. My daughter, in her very innocence, says, "It's Sammy. She's crying."
Tears of a long-dead woman crying out for justice from beyond death. Oh, but sit tight, because I haven't gotten to the really good stuff yet. You see, Sammy isn't the only spirit wandering this murder scene.
About a year and a half into living there, my son, he told me that he saw a gentleman walk right through the closed wood door. We made different sleeping arrangements, and I was up one night, and I ran into the same gentleman. The best way to describe him was a silhouette of a very distinguished gentleman. This gentleman had a derby on, very nice long tail type coat.
So, who is this mysterious man haunting the room where Sammy took her last gasping breath? Well, for that, we need to go back to the original scene of the crime.
Sammy and the mayor's son were deeply in love.
He was a client of hers and proposed to her. For whatever reason, she turned him down.
After Sammy's death, the mayor's son disappears. We never see any history record of him again.
So, it was a scorned lover who personally introduced poor Sammy to the Grim Reaper. Case closed. Or was it someone else?
She fell in love with the mayor's son and she was a prostitute. As far as we know, the mayor murdered her.
The mayor was not going to see his son sacrifice his life to a prostitute. And after Sammy's death, the mayor doesn't run for re-election. We don't know why.
Now we have a juicy political thriller, don't we? Did the overprotective father turn murderer to protect his son? Or did he kill to save his own career? Remember that mysterious man in the coat and hat? Maybe he can shed some light on this sordid tale.
Sammy Dean lost her life way before she should have. It's possibly that the gentleman who actually committed the murder is trying to make some type of contact with Sammy to do some type of apology.
The tragedy of prostitution in the West was a life with no meaning, and that's why stories like Sammy, they are important, because they make us realize these are human beings.
Even in its glory days, Jerome was a small town with very few secrets. But someone had to know who took the life of beautiful Sammy Dean. Was her death a crime of passion? Perhaps Sammy knew too many secrets. Whatever the case, you can bet Sammy knows who did her in, and she will not stop wandering Jerome, Arizona, until you know too. Nighty-night.
Jerome was called the Sin City of the West.
Gambling, murder, prostitution.
Sammy Dean was an absolutely beautiful woman.
The mayor's son, regular clients.
She was found brutally strangled to death.
The apartment where Sammy Dean was murdered, there was a lot of activity.
All of a sudden, it got icy cold.
The windows would fog up for no apparent reason. My daughter says, "It's Sammy. She's crying."
The desert Southwest. Perhaps there is no area more awe-inspiring, more beautiful, yet more mysterious. Follow me now into the northern Arizona mountains to a town called Jerome. Population 343. Of course, this number only takes into account those who are still breathing. You see, my friends, Jerome, Arizona is a town with a past. And unlike most places where the past is relegated to history books, in Jerome, the past can be seen walking everywhere.
The town abounds in legends and stories of the spirits and the paranormal activities.
You live in Jerome, you sort of get used to odd things happening. Shadows, or you hear things, or you sense something.
You know, it's a town where people live fast and they live hard lives, and a lot of psychic fingerprints are still left behind in a lot of buildings.
That's an interesting way to describe a cold chill knifing through you, or an apparition appearing at the foot of your bed. Nonetheless, to really understand the ghost of Jerome, you need to go back to a time when these bloodless beings were among the living.
Jerome was a mining community in Prescott's early territorial history.
In 1899, the word was
1800s. They had a great time. They made their money and they went to the bars and spent it.
Let's be honest, it wasn't just beer and whiskey that these guys spent all their hard-earned money on.
A few of the more famous women of the town made a really good living operating brothels.
The brothel industry was very significant to Jerome because without the brothels, you would have had a lot more crime going on. This was an outlet.
It seems that our little town of Jerome was way ahead of its time at the turn of the century. More than 100 prostitutes walked the streets in less than 1 square mile. Seems to me, in Jerome, Arizona, the oldest profession was an obsession.
Business was
now kind of like the California gold rush, that we might have a similar bonanza up here with copper. By 1923, 24, we had 15,000 people living here.
Oh yeah, this little boomtown pulled in $1 billion a year for the mining companies. And men with picks and shovels came from everywhere to get their cut. And guess what? You put a lot of hard-working men in one place, mix in some money, and well, there's gonna be a lot of colorful side effects.
We were called the Sin City of the West. This was the baddest place anywhere.
Gambling, murder, theft. It didn't get any more wicked.
It was just the roaring 19...
Please, I'm a little freaked out right now. Just stop, just film this. Are you filming this?
Yes.
Did you hear that?
I'm capturing right now, I'm filming.
It's coming from back here, bro.
Hold on.
Okay, we hear you. We hear you, and we don't think that you're a very nice spirit because you're making noises, you're throwing. But we have no fear of you. Okay? We have absolutely no fear of you. Nick, you go in there first? You want me to go in? Is that you? Making all that noise?
This is the room.
What room? Is that you making all the noise? Holy, oh my God, holy, stop, stop, go. Please help me. Hey, Nick!